Well, here we are on the first July meeting. So I appreciate you guys hopping on. And Stephen and I had talked, now about a month ago, about topics of things to cover. And one of the things that he had mentioned was leadership. And I thought that's a very valuable topic, no matter where we are in our lives, whether it's with our family, at work, or just with our friends around us. And so I went to somebody who I find is tried and true as it comes to leadership, and it was John Maxwell. And so one of the books that he has is Leadership Gold. So I've taken some of the questions that he has in that book, and I wanted to present it to you guys as a point of discussion. Tim, I know that you're going to be challenged to have a conversation because you're in the middle of work. And then Scott, I'll be sure to read the question as loud and clear as I can, since you're not, and I'm not going to have any slides anyway. So by all means, I want you to chime in, even though you're driving. It shouldn't be very challenging. So the topic of this one I thought would be, again, very relevant for us, is the toughest person to lead is always yourself. And when I was going through and I was reading a lot of these questions, your post race conversation with John and Becca, Aaron, resonated significantly with me when I was reading through this, about a lot of the realization that you had on the course of who God made you to be and what your purpose was, and that's a leader. And so the main point of this one is most people don't fail on account of the competition. Most people sabotage themselves. If you don't look at yourself honestly, then you will never understand where your personal difficulties lie. And if you cannot see your weak spots, then you will fall victim to them. And that was the paragraph, because you admitted to those that you weren't running your race and that you were running a different race. And then once you turned it outward, everything got better. Was that an accurate assessment of what you gathered?
Yeah, for sure.
So the first question, this is why this is going to be not didactic by any means, but a discussion for all of us to discuss, is the first one is: describe an area of life in which you're self-disciplined. What benefits have you gained as a result of your self-control? So Scott, when you hear that one, what's an area in your life that you're self-disciplined?
I'm getting much better about doing physical activity more, pushing myself harder, because I'm in the 40 days of deliverance now. We have to work out 40 minutes a day. And so I'm getting much better about that. Before it was just, I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't do it. So now I've gotten a lot stronger about, just getting it done. I feel much better after it's done anyway. But
always, right?
It's been a learning process, because like I said, I've got so many bone issues and stuff, but I do realize that there are things I can do, and I can work out 40 minutes a day. I'm doing it. So
now, other than the physical benefits, what are some of the other benefits that you've seen from this self-control and being self-disciplined to work out?
Another thing is I've started reaching out a lot to people, like whether it be Robbie or just John, Gudina, just a lot of people I reach out to now. I try to do it at least once every couple days, just to touch base, and so they know that I'm doing okay. And so I've done a lot of that, and that's been hard for me because I'm not the most outgoing when it comes to talking to people. So
yeah. So would you say the benefit is a deeper connection with your friends?
Oh yeah, much deeper, and friends that I never thought I would have, like a lot of those people, Cornbread, Justin Shealy, a lot of the 3 of 7 people. It's like you have to put in. You have to have discipline to even be in that group, because it just makes you feel like, I mean, that's what they preach to you. You can't do more than you think you can. And I've gotten a lot of that from them. And then, of course, everybody else I've gotten involved with after that. So, yeah, I've been learning a lot of discipline the last couple of months.
Yeah, I find for me, it's not a, I guess a natural trait, at least for me, to be like truly disciplined. Like it's a mental shift for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Aaron, what would be an area that we wouldn't expect you to be self-disciplined in? I mean, we know from a running perspective, you're disciplined there, but what would be something that you would comment that you're proud of your self-discipline in?
Well, it's not cleaning my room, that's for sure. Oh, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of it, because there's just some certain things in life that you just have to do. And I mean, I would say running is something I don't necessarily have to do. So it is something where it takes getting in that habit, but like, things around the house, work commitments, being disciplined in how I present myself and carry myself, like those are all things that I don't want to take for granted, because not everybody has that level of discipline. So I would say like how I show up for work every day, how I'm able to put other people first. I would say that I'm probably the type of person that's like all in or not in, you know. So what are some things I mean, I would say that I try to be pretty self-disciplined in my mind and my thoughts, and my thought life, and trying to be disciplined and not letting my mind wander down paths that are not helpful, you know? So as far as like winning the daily mental battle of just life, um, that definitely takes mindfulness and effort, because otherwise it could just slip. Um, so I would say that's probably something that I feel pretty disciplined about, and also, yeah.
What,
mean,
like with the little daily things, which to me, that's one of the hardest ones, because it's the subtle ones that just float by you that you don't necessarily recognize. What are some of the benefits that you think you've gained from that self-control?
just being more even keeled, I guess. Not allowing the lows to bring me too low, and not like letting the highs bring me too high. I feel like I'm a little bit more even keeled, definitely more even keeled than I used to be. There's a scripture that says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. It's like a ship that's being, riding these waves. So I would say like the benefit is just a more stable presence of mind, more present, and not letting my emotions or usually it's circumstances. It's not necessarily my emotions, but circumstances dictate too much. Like today, anybody could have let that destroy their whole day, their whole week. But it was something that I recognized as a test, and something that just because something happened that was negative doesn't mean that I need to throw it all out the window. So does that make sense?
100% sense, for sure. And when you were talking, that was some of the things that came to my mind from a self-discipline from my perspective, is it's probably in those little things, and it's the thoughts, because there were, in the past, my thoughts controlled more of my actions and decisions. And so not being, I'll give a specific one was around porn, and just not having the self-discipline to not look at the stuff and allow my mind to wander and allow that attraction to fill my mind. And so to me, that's probably one that I'm most proud of, because I just quit cold turkey over 4 years ago and haven't picked it up. I mean, completely shifted how I perceive just reality and those elements. And so to me, the benefit from getting rid of that is a much richer, stronger relationship with my wife, that I'm fully committed to her and not having this side kind of just dark alleyway that I would find myself going down more times than I wanted to. So when you said the little things, that's little to some and big to others. And it's through having those small wins of small disciplined things as you go, you just get proud of. Like, I did a 24-hour fast today, and then I ate dinner, and now my stomach hurts. but it was like having the discipline of, the first time I did it, I was miserable the whole day. And now it was like, I could probably go easily till tomorrow and not even think about it, because you get hungry and then you just kind of shut that off and move it along. So self-discipline to me just creates habits of self-discipline, good self-discipline.
Yeah.
Tim, are you able to share, or you want me to move to the next question?
I'm right in the middle of trying to figure something out, but I can be quick. I think, I mean, I go with like what Aaron was saying, just with thoughts and being very mindful of thoughts and where my thoughts go. And like probably 5-6 years ago, I did the same thing, with porn, just kind of like, okay. It's interesting, because I heard something today. I was listening to something, and I want to share it with you. I'll share it with you guys. It's a YouTube link, so I'll just send it and share it. But anyway, this guy I heard today, he was talking, but anyway, I was listening to some of his other videos, and he was talking about this other gentleman who wasn't a Christian. However, his point of view and how we should be in our lives, and that's the thing is, and Aaron, I've heard you say this, it's about being, not doing. And he said, if we're always trying to do the things that we're supposed to, quote unquote, do to be a better husband, to be a better runner, to lose weight, to set the goals, whatever, right? Like, we set all these goals and we're like, okay, what do I have to do? Like, if that's our focus, we're always going to miss the mark. Instead of asking the questions of what would the best runner be doing right now? What would the best podcaster be doing right now? What would, the man that I want to be, what would he be doing right now? And just asking those questions, like, and so for me, and Jeff, you heard part of it Thursday night on the open range night, where I talked about what is the feeling that I'm after, and emotional regulation. Because when we have those types of thoughts, whether lustful thoughts or whatever, those stir up emotion, they stir up things typically within us, and we, whatever. And so it's like, okay, what is the feeling I'm after? Is that how I want to be? When I do these types of things, is that what I want to be? Is that kind of person that has those emotions, which is insecurity, shame, regret, it's like, no, that's not who I want to be. So in short of it is kind of really being disciplined on who is it that I want to be. and how am I showing up as that individual?
Yeah, I love that. And when you were talking, I kept thinking of, and I can't remember the full context, but obedience. It's that, who do you want to be? Do we want to be Christ-like, or do you want to do the things that Christ did? And it's, to your point, Tim, it's two different things. There's the doing and then the being. And I want to be Christ-like. I'm going to fall short constantly, but that's who I want to be, and that's who I want to be recognized as.
Well, and so where do I fall short in that area? I would say, with, patience with my wife, when she's not feeling well, because she doesn't feel well majority of the time. And so where I want to go do certain things, I want to do things with her as a companion, this, that, and the other. And am I being the man or the husband that would be caring, loving, compassionate? So that's an area that I fall short in. So that's an area where I need to be a better husband in, be more compassionate, be more caring, more empathetic, understanding, whatever.
Yep. So this is along those same lines, is when we think about it, and this is again open to everybody, is how have we, or you specifically, any one of you, developed self-discipline?
Sorry, Aaron.
Go ahead.
For me, it's just consistently, again, Aaron nailed it for me anyway. It's because this is how I think. It's the awareness of my thoughts, because my thoughts dictate my actions if I don't control them, if I don't take them captive and align them up with the word or whatever. So for me, it's asking that question, like, is that who I want to be? So that's what creates that discipline for me, is the constant reminder of, is this what I'm after? Is this the best use of my time at this moment? Is this, so, and there's moments where obviously where I fail at that, but that's what keeps me in the game. Like the other day, going out and running like multiple times this week when I'm working 14, plus hours a day. I'm so exhausted. Like I really want to go out there and run some. But it's like, okay, do I want to continue to be the person that just feels lethargic and tired all the time? Or do I want to go out there and do what like a high performer would do? He would still go do his run. So for me, it's just asking those questions consistently.
Yeah, I think it's putting it into practice. It can become a habit. But I think also what helps me is spending time reflecting on why I'm doing it, because God doesn't just have us do things for no reason. There is a reason, and it's not just, oh, I want to be like Jesus, but you see the value in being like that, right? So if you see constantly, like with my wife and I too, we've been really trying to get to be more on like a team level. Mike Bellini's book has been really encouraging us to like that whole concept of finding we.
Yeah, that's good.
And we've been finding it, but we have to be persistent in it. But that was a good why for us, like, because we want to be unified. We want to feel close to each other. We want to feel like we're on the same team. We want to feel like we're in it together. All those things are why we're willing to put in work, because relationships are work. Making an effort to put the other person's needs before your own is work. So I think, with a race, that's a good why for me. I think it's important to continually reinforce and tap into your why you're doing something. I think I've been struggling a little bit with work. Just because it's been feeling more like I'm kind of going through the motions. Like I can do what I got to do, but I feel like I'm missing some level of like, I got to find how I can tap into who God made me to be at work. Because there's some guys that I have that I struggle with leading, or they struggle with listening. It's hard. It's like, if you're always speaking to people that are listening and receptive, and you feel like, oh, I'm doing something good here. But when you have people that don't seem to listen and don't seem to, like, I'm really struggling with my why. And I'm just like, all right, well, I don't want to just show up and do my job. Even if I do it really well, like God's leading me to be who I'm called to be with these guys they're on our team. So I think that's something where I'm trying to tap into being a better leader, and that comes with that awareness. I need to be more of who God made me to be with these guys, and maybe the obstacles are in those guys. Okay, well, so how do I inspire them, or how do I, maybe inspire them or motivate them to want more for themselves, and sometimes it comes down to, what, this person's just not cut out to be on our team, because you try and try, and they just aren't that person that wants to grow. So for me, it's a struggle to be around people that don't want to grow. And I think but it's also an opportunity for me to, like, hey, maybe I can inspire them to want to better themselves. So I don't know if that's, trying to remember what the original question was, but it comes down to that why. And I like what Tim said. Who am I supposed to be to these people on my team? Not just what are we going to accomplish? Because anyone could just make it about work, or anyone could just make it about training. But it's, who am I called to be for these people? And why am I called to be that? To inspire them, to encourage them, to help them to meet more of their potential. So that always helps me if I'm stuck, or I feel like I'm going through the motions, is reconnect with my why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps drive a deeper level of discipline and commitment. Because you have more buy-in, personally.
Way to bring it full circle. You nailed it. Oh no, it makes sense. How about you, Scott? How have you developed self-discipline? Oh, he's frozen. He's partially frozen. I'll go while we're waiting on Scott. Scott, I don't know if you can hear me. You might want to turn your video off if it's too choppy. For me, it's the small wins. It's finding something that I can accomplish, and then doing that over and over, and then continuing to add layers. Because for somebody who quits things when they get hard, that's not a good testament for self-discipline, because self-discipline becomes discipline when it becomes hard and you don't want to do it. Otherwise, it's just the way. And so for me, it was like constantly putting different layers of challenges in my way, but they were easy to overcome, and then constantly building on those as I went. So a good example for me was daily Bible reading. So taking the app, the YouVersion app, and whatever Bible verse automatically popped up, that's what I started reading. And it has developed over the course of 4 years to where I actually study the Bible, and I study and I read and I contemplate. But for me, it started with a daily Bible verse and making a commitment. Okay, I'm going to read this Bible verse every day this week.
Yeah.
And then continuing to add to that, and then just allowing that to become a habit and self-discipline? I love the partial
Is it
shots.
better yet? Hasn't gone frozen yet.
Yep, it's kind of choppy. It's like 1998.
Great.
Probably if you turn the video off.
Okay.
I mean, I like to see you, but I'd like to hear your comments too.
Tim just said he's got to mute us. I don't know. Well, maybe that was a while ago, but
It was just a couple of minutes ago, like right before we started talking.
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So how have you developed self-discipline?
Oh. Really by the people I've surrounded myself with here very recently. Because I didn't know much about self-discipline. I mean, I knew I didn't have it.
I liked where he was going with that.
yeah, you're going somewhere good, Scott. He froze again. There you
Oh,
go.
there he is.
So it's not great.
All right, take it from the top.
Okay, let me think where I started.
You said who you surround yourself with is how you've developed self-discipline.
Yeah, who I surround myself with, like I said, when I started in 3 at 7 2 years ago or whatever, I was learning a lot of stuff, but I wasn't implementing it. And then I think it was definitely Tim, his podcast talking about all the books he reads, but sometimes he realized that he might not be implementing them. So he decided to make sure he was, if you read a book and don't do anything with it, what have you done? So I've become more disciplined. Really, to be honest, I'm a very small cog even in my own life right now, because I have people that, help me with because I put it out there to a lot of people, sometimes I need help just doing, getting out and working out every day, doing this, that, or the other, journaling. So I've got guys, Chris Fabish, he's always getting a hold of me, asking me if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. John, of course. You guys. So trying to be a leader in my family, and that's pretty difficult, especially with all the stuff I've got going on. But that's a learning process, but I wouldn't even attempted it a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I would just let somebody else take the lead and been like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
But
now you're stepping into who you've been designed to be.
Yeah, and it's only taken 47 years.
Hey, it doesn't matter how long it takes, brother.
I know. That's the great thing about it.
Well, and I think that's a good point, is because it's revealed to us at different times, because God's timing's perfect.
Yeah.
And we tend to mess it up and not see the elements as we go and where we should have stepped into it. But what matters is you stepped into it in a good way, not stepped into a pile of mess. And it's not easy. And that's where self-discipline comes into play. And so the next thing it talks about is practice patience. So if you're, and we know this from listening to Chad, it's be patient, be present, and be deliberate. And this one he has a quote here, is when we are foolish, we want to conquer the world. When we are wise, we want to conquer ourselves. And I love that quote, because that's what we're doing. I know the four of us that are on this call tonight, we're constantly looking for ways to conquer ourselves. And that's through self-discipline. It might not be running for 30 hours. It might just be not, looking at porn on the computer, or eating a donut while looking at porn. You don't know, it's those little things that we have to do, that we have to be patient with ourselves and understand the level of what we're capable of. And Scott, I love that you commented on community. that will level up your game. And Tim and I joked, we ran our 50K back in January, and we were happy that we finished. And then we were, questioning a little bit what we could have done and could have done differently. And then we started sitting there thinking about it. We're like, wait a minute, we've surrounded ourselves with just really, really talented, top-notch ultra marathoners. And here we are trying to compare ourselves with that. And that's where he's used that verse in Galatians, is we got to run our own race. Can't compare ourselves to others. And it's the fact that we got out there, we took the discipline to train, took the discipline to run the race and see it all the way through, regardless of how we were going to finish, is something to be proud of. And that's where the patience come into play. The other one is seek accountability. It says people who lead themselves well know a secret. They can't trust themselves. How do you define accountability for yourself and then for others? Scott, we'll let you lead off.
Just taking responsibility for what you do or don't do. Like I said, I've had a hard time with that, and it's gotten much better recently because, like I said, most of the people I surround myself with are driven people, and they know I have limitations, but they also know that I can do some things. So, and I appreciate that. A lot of it comes down to my fellowship and community. If I didn't have those guys, I would be even motivated much less. But I was smart enough to listen to smarter people than me and build a team around me that supports me and cares about, what I do or what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what was the question?
And then how do you define accountability for others?
For others, if they tell me they're going to do something, if it's within humanly realm, I appreciate if they do it. Because I'm one of these people too. I won't tell you something if I don't know for sure it's going to happen. I can't say, oh yeah, I'll be there. And then, because, if I commit to something, then, or somebody, that's important to me. And so I'm one of these people that might not commit to you the last second, but once I do, I'm going to be there no matter what happens.
Yeah. Well, and you showing up at Midstate to crew John is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you, Aaron? How do you define accountability for yourself?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to, so being accountable to myself, and then the other one is being accountable to others. I think it helps to be accountable with others. I think just being vocal with yourself, or honest with yourself as to what your convictions are, and any struggle or battle that we have, we kind of know what it is. There's obviously things that we're not aware of, but the things that we are aware, I think it's being honest with where we're weak, being honest with where we're struggling, and, letting God into that place, and then letting others into that place. And, I know what it feels like to not be accountable, because, like you were mentioning with porn, that's something that I've struggled with in the past too. And it's like, you just don't care, or whether it's drinking too much, like I was at points with many different bad habits. You just didn't care. You hardened yourself. So I think being accountable, it speaks to like a sensitivity that we can all say, oh, I struggle with this, I struggle with that. But in reality, I was not struggling. I was just giving in. It wasn't a battle. I just gave in.
Yeah.
So it's waging, I think it's actively waging war against those things, and being honest with yourself, like, hey, you are struggling here. And I think we're not meant to carry those burdens alone. It's not just between us and God. I think it's very closely linked to letting people into those struggles, letting, one of the things that really helped me with overcoming porn was letting Anna into that battle, because she had no idea. And, something I was there was so much shame and so much guilt. But like when I let her into that, it just gave me so much more power, and it disarmed all the lies of the enemy that made me feel like a piece of crap, and it helped get that momentum of bringing it into the light, and then bringing other people into that. So I think yeah, I mean, anyone can say, hey, like you see Ultra Dad or Justin saying, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to win, and this is the work I'm doing. And it's almost like he's holding himself accountable by putting it out there, but you're still using other people to help you be accountable by speaking it out. So yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of answered both those questions. But how do I do it? I think it's just literally speaking to people, saying this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I want to work towards. Like wanting to work towards like closeness and intimacy with Anna has been a goal of mine for a while. And the people that are really close to me know that, it's been a goal, if you will. And that's something that someone could say, hey, how's it going? Like, are you making any progress? Are there things you're putting into practice to make your marriage a priority? So I think speaking those things out, putting it into the air, putting it into the world, and having those people that are in your corner that are going to remind you, hey, this is what you wanted to do. It's hard to hold people accountable for things that they don't want to do, or they haven't said that they need to do. But if someone says, hey, I want to do this, then you have some leverage there to say, hey, what about this? And then if you do that for someone else, they can hold you accountable. So
Yeah, and that's where you were talking about your team that's around you before. That was a challenge when I had teams, was how do you hold someone accountable that won't hold themselves accountable? Other than getting them off your bus, that's the only thing that you can do. And when you were talking, both of you, the thing that kept resonating strongly with me is having a standard. That's where accountability lies, is with myself, as I have a standard, and I changed my standard, which changed the level of accountability that I allowed myself. So like you were saying, Aaron, is that you can't be struggling with it if you do it all the time, because you're just giving in. The struggle is where you have these moments of lapse because you've been fighting and fighting and fighting, and you get tired, and that's a struggle. And then you kick back in, and then, not an excuse. It just happens because we all fall short. So I thought that was really good. So Tim, I don't know if you heard anything that we talked about. Did you?
Zero. I muted. So I had a call and trying to have a mess going on. So yeah. Anyway.
No, that's okay. So the question that we just went through and answered, so this will be good. This is like playing a quiz show where he was in the soundproof booth.
Yeah.
And had no idea how we all answered.
What? I can't hear you anymore. I'm sorry.
How do you define accountability for yourself and for others?
Well, this is a good one. I think for me, and probably you guys have all heard me say this, I define accountability for myself as holding myself. So that's interesting, right? How do you hold yourself accountable? I break that word down even when I'm asking for accountability or asking for others to hold me accountable to things. There's two schools of thoughts, right? Like if I say I'm going to do something, they're holding me to what I said I was going to do, accountable to that, which is cool. Appreciate that. Like bump me, challenge me. If you see me doing something that I'm not doing that I said I was going to do, just hold me accountable to that. However, the other flip side of that, which I've kind of coined this, is that accountability to me is for me and for others is holding me account of my ability. So the abilities that my friends see in me that maybe is a blind spot for me, and they see these abilities within me, and I'm not exercising them. I'm not operating them. I'm not practicing them right away. But they hold me account to those things. And the same for myself, the things that I know, like the conversation we had earlier, knowing the person I want to be in life and how I want to show up in life are my abilities. Am I holding myself account of the abilities that align with that? So if I'm doing certain things and I feel like, I think, y'all help me out here. This was probably 20, I know this is going back in the time chamber here, 2020 or 2021. Chad said something about ability versus like going beyond your ability. There's something to that, right? I forget what that was. Or working within your ability, or
I know what you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that, to me, where I'm going with that is like, okay, my ability, there's a ceiling to that. But if I want to grow, I have to challenge myself in those abilities to go even further. So that's that account, holding myself account of, if I'm not measuring up to my abilities, or if I am, how am I going beyond that to create new abilities within me? I know that sounds maybe a little muddy, but that's kind of how my mind thinks.
No, it makes sense to me. Just because of the ability portion is that you have to be self-aware and know if you need to improve in an area.
Yeah.
And that's leadership is self-awareness.
Yeah.
And that's the other element that they talk about in a couple of these spots, is talking about blind spots. And so that's a good transition to that is, and Aaron, we'll start with you, is how can you gain greater awareness of your blind spots as a leader?
Well, you could probably ask other people if there's anything that you could do to improve. It's like you'd have to ask someone else, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's blind to you, but I don't know how I come across to other people. I don't know how I'm being received. The way I am and the way I talk to people can be received totally different from each person, even though I'm speaking in the same manner. So I think if being a good leader is being able to meet people with where they're at and be able to effectively communicate to each person individually within reason,
Correct.
some people are just very, very soft, and they have very thin skin. But yeah, I think asking, if you want to be a better husband, well, who are you a husband to? Your wife. Ask her. You could ask your kids how you're doing. You could ask your employees or coworkers or your boss. Hey, and honestly, it's probably not something I really do that often.
It's not fun.
I mean, I feel like I have a running list of things I need to work on. And also, they might be blind spots, but it doesn't mean that you won't have little checks. Like if I miss it with like an employee, or if I speak harshly or whatever, like I have a check. Like that was a little harsh. And I think when it becomes a really big blind spot is if you just keep ignoring that check. If I miss it with my wife or miss it with my kids, it becomes more of a blind spot when you harden yourself to that.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to take the opportunity to recognize I got to humble myself before I even need them to say anything to me about it. So there are things we do that we have no idea, but a blind spot is something that needs to be addressed, and we might have an idea, but we just like kind of like justify, you know?
You intentionally
So,
make it a blind spot.
yeah. So I
It's
think
like
there's
you,
something we can do that are proactive in making sure that we're humbling ourselves in responding to those little checks, or like, ooh, I didn't really respond well there. So
Can
yeah,
I?
that it's that self-awareness piece
Yeah.
that we can be self-aware. And you said it earlier, is that people say they're struggling with certain things. We make excuses for the things that we know we shouldn't do, but we do it anyways because we don't have the discipline to correct it and to stop if it's using bad language. Some people are like, it's just how I talk, but you don't have to. It doesn't mean that you're a Christian or not. Just be disciplined enough to not use bad language. There's
So now
other
you're
ways that
saying
you
you're
can-
just a victim to the words that come out of your mouth.
correct. Like you don't have control.
You have
over
no
that.
control.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that, I think that's a very good point. And you also mentioned is within reason. You can't kowtow to everybody. It's that a true democracy means that you could never be Aaron because you have to be a different version to everybody that's around to where you've lost yourself. Because then there's some responsibility on their part as well. And I think also where I was going with this, and then I'll let you chime in, is around self-awareness. Is the blind spots are the ones that we just ignore, like you said. I think anybody who says, oh, I didn't realize I did that, I don't know if that's truly true. I think it could be is, I didn't know you took it that way. Like you were saying, is you can say a certain thing and everybody's going to take it different. You're aware of what you say and how you do it because you're not unconscious when you're doing these things. You just may not care how other people perceive the way you're communicating, the way you're acting. And it goes back to that standard, to have a standard of how you want to be. So I'd be interested after this conversation we have tonight, Aaron, like how you approach those other two team members and trying to figure out the best way to communicate with them and get them more engaged to what your vision of the company is. Okay, Scott, your turn. How can you gain a greater awareness of your blind spots as a leader?
I'm pretty aware of most of my blind spots, but a lot of it comes from what Aaron had said, asking other people who I was in charge of or who were watching me, who were in charge of me, and then asking them, what did I do something that I shouldn't have done? Was I too hard on them? I think I was, and then getting someone else's other opinion. But like Aaron also said, I also know when I was being a little harsh on somebody or not harsh enough. Guy comes in and I can smell he's been drinking. And it's like, well, this is your fourth time. Why don't you just go home? And immediately when I said it, you're a prison guard 4 times drinking. You have to do more than go home because people's lives are on the line there. But that's when I went to a guy above me and I said, well, what would you have done? He said 4 times. He said he would have been talking to his union steward. We would have had, there was a lot more you should have done. So I've done that. And I think yet again, I was smart enough to see people that were smarter than me or saw things that I didn't see that I could go ask. And I still try to do that with outside of my profession. I try to do it in all aspects of my life because, like they said, iron sharpens iron, and you're around a bunch of strong individuals, you're going to get stronger or you're going to break.
Yep. Well, and I think this one is, how you can gain greater awareness of your blind spots as a leader. It's being authentic with the people around you. And if you're struggling, then you're struggling. If you're not, you're not. And then you become dependable because of your authenticity.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And they're not afraid to approach you and be able to share things. Because again, maybe, and Aaron, just because you mentioned it, it's the only reason why I'm going back to it, is like the guys that you're not necessarily connecting with, or they're not connecting with what you want to do. Maybe it's where they're at, like mentally. Maybe there's some things that they're struggling with that they wish they had somebody that they could open up to, and there could be a bond created just from listening. Maybe it's, being your authentic self, say, guys, let's go for a run. Let's just wrap this job up early. We'll have to do a little bit of double time tomorrow, but let's just go for a run. I don't know the guys that you're working with. They may think you're crazy, but say you can still be on the clock. Let's go for a run. But, just things like that could break down some barriers for them to be more authentic and to see that you do care and you are who God made you to be. So,
yeah, I think it comes, I mean, not to get into it too much, but I definitely struggle with taking it personally when it's really just something that, like, this one guy, he can be very closed off, and it's not because of anything I said. It's just, he just gets really, I don't know. He just closes up and withdraws a lot, but I know he has other stuff going on in his life that he doesn't always open up about, and so, yeah, I mean, guys are tough to, lead to an emotionally healthy place when you're just like, especially in construction, you're just like, everyone wants to be tough. Everyone wants to be seen as competent. No one wants to admit weakness. No one wants to admit that they have to change. So it's
How do you
but
show
yeah.
that in front of them?
Exactly. I think it's leading by example, being able to open up about things myself and set that example, show them what it means to be humble, show them what it means to admit mistakes, and show them what it means to be, valued, part of a team. So it's interesting. There's a lot of opportunities to disciple in this industry too. So yeah.
I think it'd be interesting, Aaron, is to connect with, do you follow Canadian Rob Matthews?
I can't say that. I mean, maybe, but I can't say that I know who
We
he
should
is.
connect you to. Scott's nodding
Yeah.
his head, but he runs a similar outfit that you do in Canada. And at least the two of you could have comparison of running a team in construction, and how do you witness, and he's the most curious person I've ever met in my life. Joker asks constant questions, but they come from a genuine place, and he's also a very open book. Tim, I think he was your first interview, wasn't he?
No, he was deeper in, but he was earlier on. Yeah.
I remember he was early, but I think yours was his first podcast that he ever done.
Yeah,
but
he was the first time he'd ever done a podcast. Yeah.
Aaron, you would love having a
Dude,
conversation
you should
with
listen.
the guy.
Yeah, his story is pretty amazing.
But he's wonderful.
Well,
Maybe that'll be a task, Scott. You can connect Aaron and Canadian Robbie together.
They would become fast friends.
cool.
Yeah, you would talk for days. But I hope tonight was good. So what we're going to do is...
Can I add to that question?
Oh
then?
yeah, go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Because it was interesting as Aaron was talking, this quote came to mind, and it says, "I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who you think I am." And so it's just interesting. We project not who we think we are, not who we think those other people are, but who I think they think we are. And so it's pretty interesting to self-awareness really kind of, I think, circumvents that, you know what I mean? So we're not trying to project ourselves of who someone else thinks we are or something of that nature, Anyway, I'm big on asking others, like, are there any blind spots? Hey, what did you see? What could I have corrected or done differently? Blah, 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 blah. So I've even asked people that I've mentored, like normally I'm telling them their blind spots, right? But I've also asked them, hey, I'm just curious, like if you were to look at me, like what blind spots would you see? And so I think it's healthy to get a wide variety of, even like, you know, how we have those friendships or those things where there's people we're pulling up, you know, we're reaching down to mentor them. We have people that are kind of the same level as us. And then there's those people above us, like mentors. And so, but having that broad perspective of being able to draw from each level and ask each level, because everybody has a different perspective, and I think it's cool to have the perspective of the mentee, because we always want to go to the mentor for that.
Yep. I appreciate it. Well, Aaron, I keep forgetting to tell you, I like your, is that a custom t-shirt?
Well, I mean, it was a special order they had, but I didn't realize it existed until I saw someone wearing it at Midstate this year.
I didn't either. I love it.
And they only had, so after the day after the race, I was still on site and I saw Justin and I saw Eric. I helped Eric like clean up. And Aaliyah was there and she was wearing this shirt. And we asked Becca, do you have more of those shirts? She had 2 left. So she gave one to me. And we're like, you need to make another round of these shirts, because if I would have known that these were available, you know, I think it'd be a big seller.
They would have sold 200 of those.
Yeah, it's
over the
all
weekend.
Strava segments, all the names of, you know, so I think it's sweet. Only bummer is it's an extra large and I'm not an extra large, but still a nice shirt.
It's your
Yeah.
sleeping shirt.
Sleep shirt.
You don't have to wear shorts now when you're wearing your sleeping shirt.
I don't wear shorts anyways. But,
Oh,
I mean, I wear underwear, but I think they should make another round of them because it's pretty sweet.
heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, fellas, thank you for tonight. I appreciate it. And then we'll continue on this series for definitely for July. And then we'll look about August and see if everybody wants to continue on this topic, because I've got a ton of notes from this book. So good so far, I think.
That was
Sounds
good
good.
stuff.
All right. Y'all have a good week.
You as
Yep.
well.
too.
Yep, thank you. See you guys.
See
Good
ya.
luck again, Tim.
Thanks, man.